Hi everyone, Hamilton here again. A while ago, I was listening to a guy who was, breaking down Genesis 1, what God did in creation. And there was something that he said that made a lot of sense to me. And maybe some months after, I listened to another guy called Pius Mugo, a Kenyan, and he also said the same thing. He said that when God was creating, that he created systems and not things. And that if we are wise, we ought to create just the way God created. And when I delved into it a bit, what I realized was that when God was creating everything, the creation story, when he was creating everything, he created, like when he created plants, he said he created seed-bearing plants. He created in those plants systems whereby they could continue to reproduce themselves without his interference. In the same way, when he created the animals, he created systems, reproductive systems in them where they could continue to reproduce themselves without his involvement. Same thing with man, same thing with the fishes, the birds, everything. So what he was saying was that everything God created were not just things. He created systems so that on the seventh day, he could rest. Because if God did not create systems, what it meant was that he will have no rest on the seventh day. Meaning that every day he continued to recreate. As they die, he create more. As they die, they create more. But he created systems so that he would not be involved. In the same way, the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the starry hosts, God put them up there and he put them in a system where they just rotate and just go through the orbit on their own. He doesn't have to get involved. So what they were saying was that if God, in the beginning, in Genesis 1, at the beginning of the Bible, teaches us that when he created systems, shouldn't we also learn from God and create systems rather than things that will keep us imprisoned and keep us creating and creating and creating? And I'll break it down. So what they were saying was that for us as individuals, when we earn an income, and we have two options. One option is to put that money in a system that continues to produce more money. The other option is to carry that money and put it in things that die. So it's either you put the money in an asset that produces cash flow, or you put the money in a liability that depreciates with time. That was just mind-blowing for me. Because a lot of times we take money, we just invest it and just forget about it. But they said when you have cash flow, there's something psychological about having cash flow. Let me break it down. So take, for example, now, an individual who earns $5,000 a month, and that $5,000 is just enough to take care of his household needs. If that individual has a spouse that earns $3,000 or $4,000 or even $5,000, and that money is invested in a cash flow producing asset, with time, the money will grow and start to produce up to $5,000 a month, meaning that the money coming from their assets, from their systems that they've created, is able to take care of the household. The first thing it does is psychologically, it makes you feel free. Free in the sense that you are not enslaved to your job. And secondly, it frees you to now do work that you want to do, that you love to do, not the one that you have to do because you got bills to pay. And that is when you find rest, like God rested on the seventh day. So that was just mind-blowing for me. That when you invest, it's good to invest in assets that, will grow over the years and all that. But it's even better to invest in cash flow producing assets that eventually will match your household expense, so that at that point in time, you are financially free. And you are free to leave your job or continue working in the job if you love it, or go look for something that you really, really love to do. So the lesson here is invest in systems and not in things. But unfortunately, I know that we live in a world where people come, they just want to buy big homes and all of that stuff because we're in Nigeria, we're living in big homes in Nigeria. We'll come to the West, I want to live in big homes here, and people get entrapped. They get entrapped in a system where they are always working to pay the system. Take, for example, now, you buy a house. When you get a mortgage, you are actually not the homeowner. The homeowner is the bank and the government. And after 25 years of paying down your mortgage, you sack your bank as your landlord, but the government will remain your landlord till that house is for life, actually, because they will always have to pay them the property taxes. And when you don't pay the property taxes, they have the right to take over your house. So instead of spending money in liabilities, we're encouraged to spend money or invest our funds in cash flow producing assets that will first of all change our psyche, free our minds, and at the same time give us cash flow that will take care of all of our responsibilities. So you are working for joy and not working to pay bills. So this is one lesson from Genesis chapter 1. I never saw it before, but these two individuals opened my eyes to see this reality. And I hope that you're able to learn a lesson from this and make the move. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.